everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Alan Owensman, senior editor and author of the Current Climate newsletter. Alan, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, Brittany. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. You recently wrote a piece entitled Elon Musk's Robotaxi Dream Could Be a Liability Nightmare for Tesla and its Owners. And this question really came up during one of our past Musk Watch episodes, since Tesla owners could potentially soon enjoy a new additional revenue stream by adding their car to a fleet of self-driving Tesla robotaxis. Then the conversation progressed to who exactly would be on the hook, say an accident happened, when someone else was essentially Airbnb-ing the car. Would it be the owner of the car, or would it be Tesla itself? So what did you find?
Well, you raised that question, and at the time I didn't have a good answer for you. And now, after speaking with some legal experts and some people in the industry, I have a better understanding. And the answer is, would those owners have exposure, legal liability? Yes, in most cases, it's likely that they would. This is a whole new concept of basically Airbnb-ing your car as a robotaxi. There already are systems. There's a company called Turo, for example, where you can loan your car out in the case of Turo. But you also, as an owner for something like that, have to ensure that the car is in good working condition. The brakes are in good condition. The tires are properly inflated, that sort of thing. There's something very similar that would likely be the case in a future scenario where I'm a Tesla owner. I want to make some money off my car as a robotaxi. In all likelihood, I'm going to have to ensure that that car is pristine, that there are no mechanical issues. Again, tires, brakes. I've had maintenance done for it. Any recall issues have been addressed so that the car is in good condition. Because in the event of an accident, will Tesla have liability? Yes, 100%. Will I, as the owner, probably have liability? Yes, in all likelihood, you will. And this raises a lot of interesting questions. One of the things is, because no one has done this, what's the insurance for something like that? And one person I talked to who sort of works with insurers on these kinds of issues said, he doesn't believe that a lot of insurance companies would be willing to take that risk initially because there are just so many unknowns. If you think about it, the average person drives 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 miles a day. If a car is being used as an Uber or a robotaxi, it only really makes sense if you're utilizing it a lot. So you're logging lots and lots and lots of miles. So, as a robotaxi, it might book 100 or more miles per day. And the reason why that's significant is it's wear and tear, but it also is more opportunity for roadway accidents. If you drive to work and park, and then drive home and park, you have limited opportunity for accidents. But if that car is like constantly in use, going through intersections, pedestrians, cyclists, any number of incidents, situations can occur where the car could be involved in an accident, even if everything is going right. And then, of course, if there are technical problems with the software, if the cameras are smudged, this is an issue that would be of concern. You as the owner, that Tesla has 8 digital cameras on it, but it does not have an installed cleaning system for those cameras. Have you ensured that you've cleaned all of those cameras, that the cameras are all like getting, good visual images of the world? If you haven't, then you might be in trouble if that car is in an accident, and Tesla might potentially join and say, well, you put your car in the network, but it wasn't well maintained. And so, you're on the hook for this too. So it's a whole new can of worms that they're opening up by doing this. And I think as time goes on, if they make this offer and say, put your car in the network, read the fine print, because that's where it's likely to say you indeed will have exposure and some legal liability in the event that things go wrong.
And even if there was a smudge on the camera, let's say you put your car into the fleet and it was smudgeless, and then someone, put their hand on it accidentally, or something fell onto it. Then that opens an entirely different can of worms. And I'm sure an attorney, they're just scratching their head here. There's so many different variables, different possibilities. When you were talking to attorneys here for this story, did they say how, I mean, is it essentially worth it for a Tesla owner to put their car into the fleet? I mean, how big of a legal risk is this for a Tesla owner?
No one went out on a limb yet because it's not happening, right? So it's all hypothetical at this point. I mean, Musk is saying, step right up, put your car in the system, make lots of money. So I'm thinking, great, I'm going to buy 10 Teslas. I'm going to put them in the network. I'll quit my job, and then the cars will just make money for me. Great. What could go wrong? It's like a lot. you know?
No, it does sound like a lot could go wrong. And you and I have talked many times before about Elon Musk. He's no stranger to making these lofty promises and not exactly following through. So we're not at the place right now that people can put their car into this fleet, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But I think, you were hitting on something earlier that is the key point. You send your car out into the system, it's in great condition, but through the course of the day, something happens, right? What we don't know, because it hasn't really been defined by Tesla exactly how this would work, is ongoing maintenance throughout the day. Waymo is the company we have to look at now because they're really the only game in town at this point in terms of Robotaxi. Waymo has a very regimented system for maintenance throughout the day. So they have multiple depots in the cities where they operate. The vehicles are out in service, giving rides, but then they're scheduled to come back in and recharge. And as they're recharging at the depot, they're also being cleaned and checked. So you know that those vehicles are actually getting a lot of attention throughout the course of the day. They've built that into their system. Tesla at this point has provided no details whatsoever about the regular maintenance just on a daily basis to make sure that cars are charged, clean, and someone's checking, are the cameras and all the sensors working well? That's really critical kind of stuff. So there are so many unanswered questions here. And it goes back to this whole idea. There's been excitement for some about the promise of Tesla's Robotaxi network, but there are so many unknowns still that just have not been clarified by the company. And so we'll see. At the moment, I am a little skeptical that the customer-based Robotaxi system, putting your car, Airbnb-ing your car, is going to happen anytime soon. Certainly, that's not a plan for Waymo. That's not a plan for Zoox. It's like, no, we're not doing that. We're operating the vehicles. There are vehicles. We operate them. We have liability. That was the other thing that was clear. Waymo was very blunt. Like, yeah, if something happens and we're found that it was our fault, we have liability, and we're providing medical coverage for passengers and things like that. So they have a very clear. There's no gray area. Like, it's very clear. There's a lot of gray with the Tesla system.
And so Waymo is saying, hey, the liability's on us. When you ask Tesla, what exactly did they say? What is their answer to this question?
Silence. Tesla, for the last 5 years has not actually had a communications team. They don't respond to reporters' questions. So you really have to just go by, Elon Musk's public announcements or what they say at different events. They've not addressed any of these issues in terms of how this would, like the real mechanics of how this kind of system would work. Musk throws it out as a concept, and then we sort of wait for the details to come later. What I did see, though, is simply if you read through the terms of use as a rider, there are a lot of interesting details if you simply are just riding in the Tesla Robotaxi at this point.
And I want to read some of those details because you pointed them out. Here are some of Tesla's legal terms. Riders may not always be delivered to their intended destinations or may experience inconveniences, interruptions, or discomfort related to the Robotaxi. I mean, that's pretty vague language, and I'm assuming by design. I wonder if that encapsulates an accident. I mean, what is a disruption? What's discomfort? What's an inconvenience?
Well, I mean, some people might get nervous riding in the back seat, especially if something odd happens. You could get a little panicky. I mean, in the reports so far, and it's very odd because the pilot in Austin launched on June 22nd. There was an initial flurry of videos and things and reports from people who were handpicked to participate in the pilot. It's been sort of quiet since then, although we did learn early this week that there was a minor accident where a Robotaxi bumped into a parked Toyota Camry on a tight alley. No one was harmed, but it looked like the vehicle was scratched slightly. What has come out, though, from several reports from early writers was when they requested to get out of the vehicle before they arrived at their original destination, in multiple cases, the Tesla did something very odd where it sort of stopped in the middle of the street or in a turn lane and basically said, exit the vehicle. That's not good. And, that's with a human safety technician in the front seat and the vehicle being closely monitored by backup technicians working for Tesla at a remote facility. But something as simple as, I would like the vehicle to pull over so I can get out, in some cases, it hasn't done it in a way that most people would think is acceptable. And certainly if you're stopping the car in a turn lane and saying, the car tells you to exit now in the middle of traffic, probably not a great idea. And so, the terms are both vague, but, interesting. Like it said, the car may not take you to where you want it to go, which is like, well, isn't that the fundamental purpose of a robotaxi or any taxi, that you go to where you want to go?
And I know that this is all a hypothetical question here, and you said earlier in the conversation that insurers aren't exactly, or there might not be an insurer that wants to jump initially into this program. I mean, just how risky is this for an insurer?
Well, pretty risky, to put it honestly. If I'm one of the big personal insurance companies for an auto policy, for example, what I want to know is risk before I write the policy. And right now, the risk would be very, very high. We have an unproven technology being used, very broadly. So going beyond a tightly company-controlled project to one that is kind of opened up to anyone with a vehicle can put their vehicle into this network. I would certainly be hesitant if I'm State Farm or one of the big insurers to say like, oh yeah, that'll be fine. It's like, no, because the risk of something going wrong is very, very high. So the policies could be extremely expensive. Tesla does have its own company insurance. So does Tesla cover this? Does Tesla have to scale up financially its own in-house insurance system? My suspicions are it will, that might be the initial option. If you want to do this, you have your personal policy, but then if the car is being placed into this kind of network, maybe that becomes like a Tesla insurance policy, so you have to buy it and pay for additional coverage. Tesla's already said they're going to take a cut of every ride you provide. Do they also add an additional fee for company insurance when it's in the network? Maybe something like that is how it's going to work.
And obviously, it really does seem like we're entering some new terrain here. And you spoke to a law professor, and they had an interesting point. I want to read what they said. They said that we, quote, need a new nationwide standard for AI software. When accidents happen, we should treat it exactly like a human. Talk to us a little bit about that policy.
Well, it's because right now there is no standard whatsoever for this. This is a new area. And as people said frequently throughout the conversations, technology is running ahead of the law in this case. The development of autonomous driving technology is moving fast at this point, and we don't have national standards at all. So this is an issue that at some point Congress will have to address. NHTSA, the Department of Transportation, will have to come up with what are reasonable policies. William Wyden, the law professor you referenced there, said basically the rule needs to be the same as it is for humans. It's if the human made the mistake, the human's responsible. In this case, if the robot makes a mistake, the robot's responsible. And the robot in this case is the company, right? So, they've developed the software. This would be Tesla or Waymo or whoever the company is. But there's a dearth of federal rules and kind of a hodgepodge of state guidelines at this point.
I mean, it's really interesting because if a human makes an egregious error on the road, I mean, and kill someone, they could go to jail for that. I mean, you can't exactly toss a robot into jail. And Elon Musk, as we know, is the richest person in the world. Would a financial punishment, would that really hurt the company? I mean, I'm thinking about that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, financial pain would be the most likely punishment for sure. But yeah, as you point out, I mean, would Musk personally be at risk? I don't know about that, but certainly Tesla or the developer would be. Could you find criminal liability within the company? Maybe. I mean, it's entirely possible, and that certainly has happened. There are interesting cases in the past. I mean, the one that gets pointed to a lot would have been the Uber fatality in 2018, where a pedestrian was killed. A woman was crossing a street while Uber was testing an autonomous vehicle with a human safety driver who wasn't paying attention. In the end, the woman who was the safety driver was held criminally responsible, because her role in that was to be ready to take over in the event of an emergency situation. She was not paying attention. Video inside the vehicle showed that she was, I think, on her phone or something like that when the car struck the pedestrian. So she was held criminally liable. Uber was not, although I'm sure Uber probably ended up paying a pretty big settlement to the family in that case. So that was the first case of a fatality in the U.S. involving an autonomous vehicle, but because of some of the factors around it, the company was not held criminally liable. And this is the other issue with Tesla that I mentioned in the piece is Tesla's had partially automated driving software for a decade, Autopilot and FSD, full self-driving, which are fundamentally misleading names because they don't. Autopilot sounds like it drives itself. It doesn't. Full self-driving sounds like it really drives itself. It doesn't, because Tesla tells you, the driver, must be ready to take over in the event of difficult circumstances, that this is not a fully autonomous system. As the piece points out, that all changes with Robotaxi. Elon Musk says you can sleep in the back, you can watch movies, you can relax and do whatever. If the company's telling you that, you're not responsible. So anything that happens to that vehicle now is the liability of Tesla has liability.
To that point, Elon Musk is describing robotaxis as tiny mobile lounges where you can watch movies, play video games, you can work. So if you're in a tiny mobile lounge, you wouldn't exactly be prepared to jump behind the wheel if necessary. So are the autopilot and full self-driving features in the Teslas that are going to be given to the fleet, are they fully self-driving?
With this upgraded version of FSD, in theory, yes. So the cars that are operating in Austin right now we're led to believe are what would be called like SAE level 4. And SAE is the Society for Automotive Engineers. They developed a scale for autonomy some years ago. 0, level 1, it's like nothing. Level 2 is sort of where autopilot is today, and many of these they've become sort of standard on many cars now, where the vehicle will hold a straight line, it'll stay in lane, it'll brake automatically, those sorts of things. So partially automated features, and essentially autopilot for some time has really been in that zone. It gets murky between what exactly constitutes level 3, for example. Level 4, though, is the point at which a human does not need to take control. The vehicle is now fully capable of driving without human interaction. And so that is what Tesla's presenting now in the case of the Austin Robotaxi, that they've achieved, and they're operating at what's called level 4. That's been Waymo's standard for some years with its Robotaxis. So yes, once you get to that level, then human responsibility, if you're in the car, you're a passenger, right? You're not responsible if something goes wrong. That's where the responsibility now lies 100% with the system, with the tech, and the developer of the technology.
I feel like, as you said, this is a really murky area. There's a lot of gray territory. We're in a new landscape here. And I feel like I have now a ton of different questions. What's the biggest question you have right now after all of this reporting on the liability of Tesla versus the Tesla owner?
Honestly, will it ever happen? This whole thing about, will Tesla owners, will this ever materialize as a meaningful thing? I think the risks to the owners, the financial risks, and even, one of the folks that I chatted with for the story said, if it's your car and you've put it in the network and there's a crash in the middle of the night, at 3 a.m., do you need to get out of bed and go talk to the police, when it's your vehicle? It's like, yeah, you probably do. If it was your vehicle, you'll get called in because you're the actual owner of that vehicle. There are just any number of questions. It sounds good in theory to create this kind of network where anyone can make money just by putting their car in. But when you begin to walk through the steps here, it's like, is this really as compelling, and as simple as it sounds? And the answer is it's not. There are potential financial risks and legal risks and just inconveniences in the event of an accident or a mishap, maybe where no one's even died, but where the car was struck, in an accident. By putting your car into this and using it and logging more miles, as we mentioned earlier, the likelihood that something's going to happen increases, that it'll be involved in a collision or an accident simply because it's on the road more. If you drive once or twice a day a short distance, your odds of being in an accident are low. If you're driving 100 times a day, it's much higher. The likelihood is much higher that something could go wrong. So my biggest question would be, at the end of the day, does this even make sense in the near term or in the foreseeable future? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but right now it looks like more headaches and hassle than it's worth.
I mean, based on your reporting, it sounds like the risk does not outweigh, or the risks rather outweigh the reward here. And even something, it doesn't need to be a fatal accident, even a minor inconvenience like a passenger opens the door, dings it on something. Would the passenger have to pay for that? I mean, there's so many questions here that I think...
It's a great question, yeah.
That I think Tesla really needs to get some answers to. But Alan, I'm grateful for you for getting some answers, getting some insight here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Great. Thanks, Brittany. Great to be with you.